I was like, I'll kill you now. I'll kill you now. I'll get out of the car. My life is this. I'll give up my life for this confrontation on this bridge in Toy Town. Some Roger Rabbit cartoon wonderland. I'm prepared to die for it. And luckily I was on the phone to someone who also works the program I work, and he was able to go, oh yeah, that's because that's the amygdala. It responds quickly. It will probably take a little while
before you even think about it.
I don't want to gamble my whole life on a confrontation on a bridge, unless, although in a myth, that would be a good confrontation. That's where these things happen. Robin Hood, I think, fights for attack on a bridge. I'm sure all sorts of stuff happens on bridges. I mean, it's a transitional space, isn't it? Transitioning. In this instance.
Bad hill to die on.
Yeah, who wants to die on that hill? Yeah. Meaningless. Man dies on bridge in squabble. It's hardly Malcolm X, is it?
No, it's not the most meaningful life.
No. And then, of course, Gandhi died in a traffic dispute. Yeah, so it's not worth it, is it? Why die for that? Die for something glorious if you're going to die anyway.
That's so true.
To talk about how the opening of Russell's book talks about, it's basically the boneyard is waiting for you. And we talk about death as a teacher. I know on this podcast we've talked about before. Your wife, Sage, loves to talk about, remind us at every possible opportunity. Like, if we get stuck in any moment, she's very quick to say, hey, we could be dead. Like, that's Sage's favorite
That's her
thing
favorite
to
go-to.
It's a nice catchphrase.
That's her favorite catchphrase.
Cheeky. It's not Rodney
Very
Dangerfield.
uplifting. But it is uplifting for her because she sees it as coming back to the moment and finding beauty in every moment. That if we were going to die in this moment, let's make sure we live this moment away. We're happy that we died at this moment.
Yeah.
Not regret.
Plus, it's truth, eh? It's the truth.
It is the truth.
And if you're not aware of that fact, then you're not living in the truth. And if you're not living in the truth, then what are you living in?
Well, usually you're living in regret. And I always tell people, discipline weighs ounces, but regret weighs tons. My original teacher taught me that years ago. And it wasn't me, it was a man named Jim Rohn, and I'll never forgot it. It was like, this man knows what he's talking about. You really got to focus.
He was in the tapes too in the car.
Yes, he's beautiful. He's a beautiful man. He's passed away now, but he was a very, very big impact on me when I was 17
Discipline
years old.
weighs ounces, regret weighs tons.
Tons, yeah.
That's good,
it's true, isn't it?
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's very true.
Regret, you get stuck in those places, and we've talked about Russell's use the language of a pleasure defibrillator.
That's
you get
right.
Stuck in, for me, it's like getting stuck in a pattern of beating yourself up or regret or remembering your behavior in a different state that you were in, and then it's like your way out is this pleasure defibrillator. Paddles to wait until you find that there is a different way to wake up.
Yes.
And it's like you go right back to this pattern.
Yes, you're completely right about that. That's the only means.
You wrote it.
I wrote that. I was sitting there thinking, that's really impressive metaphor.
Tell me, we've talked a little bit about this need for connection. I over the 41 years I've been doing what I'm doing around the world in 100 countries, about 25, 30 years ago, I started seeing patterns that were really obvious to me, that no matter what a country I went to, no matter what language I was dealing in, you saw the same problems. Different cultures, we had different goals, different desires based on our conditioning and our upbringing and our culture. Home culture, not just big culture, the country itself. There's so many cultures within a country. But I began to see that there were certain immutable things that people needed. And they weren't desires, they weren't goals. They were inborn, because I see them everywhere. And the 6 that I found are, number 1, the need for certainty. The need to be certain you can avoid pain and ideally have some comfort, because if you're constantly in pain, you have constant damage. Constant damage leads to death. So it's almost a survival instinct to have some certainty. What I found is all human beings that I've dealt with have all 6 of these needs I'm going to describe to you, but they value them differently. That's why our decisions are different. Like some people, certainty is the most important thing in life. They don't want anything to change, hold it the way it is. Some people, the second need is variety, the need for uncertainty. Because if you're totally certain, you're bored shitless, right? But if you have totally, if you have too much variety, people freak out. They're unclear.
Yeah.
And if you're the lukewarm middle, it's boring as hell. So it's, how do I find certainty and uncertainty in the same task? People rent a movie they've already seen. Why would they do that? Like, get a life, right? But I've done it. I'm sure you have too, right? We've both done it. How come? You're certain it's good. You hope it's been long enough you forgot enough. There's still some variety. The third need is the need for significance, the need to feel unique, the need to feel special, the need to feel important, the need to feel needed. Everybody has that need, including those who say, I don't want to be special. They just don't want to be hurt. Because sometimes you act like you're special, people will attack, right? Even if you have something special inside you. Fourth, the need for connection and love. And then those first 4, everybody finds a way to meet. Right? Some people value love the most, some certainty, some significance. But you can get these needs in good ways or bad ways. If I feel insignificant, I put a gun to your head, I'm suddenly significant on a 0 to 10. I need no intelligence, no background, no anything, right? I can take drugs and be certain I'm gonna feel good. I have a variety, a change in my state. I can feel like I'm one with God. I can feel a connection to everything in the short term. But so we get addicted because our needs are being met. I always show people the biggest addiction is problems. It's not a heroin, it's not drugs, because what problems do is they deal with our deepest fear. Our deepest fear is that we're not enough. And if we're not enough, we won't be loved. And love is the oxygen of life. So when I look at these elements, by the way, the last two are the spiritual needs. Everybody meets the first four. And maybe not 0 to 10, they might not do a 10, but they'll do 4s or 5s. And if you get your brain thinking that by doing this, I get love or I get significance, I get certainty, if you meet at least 3s in these needs, you're gonna get addicted, whether it's good or bad. But the last two will make you feel fulfilled, and that is you must grow. We grow or we die. And I really believe that drive you're talking about is really the drive for growth. Because what makes people happy is progress. You get to a goal, and how long does it feel great? It doesn't matter how great the goal is. Win the Academy Award, make the money, have the perfect child, be connected with God. But how long does it last? Because we got to keep growing, and the reason we grow, I believe, is so that 6, we can give. We have something to contribute beyond ourselves. So I'm giving you this quick, short course because I'm curious. In addiction, all these get involved. But you and I have talked about the importance of connection and the lack thereof we try to fill up. But how important is this feeling of significance that I'm special, I'm unique, overvaluing significance to addiction in your experience?
In our lexicon, Tony, it would be purpose, meaning.
Yes, that's like the higher version of that, yes.
Yeah, like that.
That's the positive version of significance.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
Like that, like egocentric self-centeredness in active addiction of
Yes.
you need to that's highly recognizable.
Yes.
And it's a way of making a lot of addicts make themselves the center of their family system. Right. It's a family disease. You see like that everyone around has got to cater to the needs of this. This
by having a problem, they have power. Because if you keep trying to solve my problem, you can't. I get more connection with you. It may not be a good one, but it's a deeper connection. And so if we look at everything from meeting needs rather than there's something wrong with us, then we can find there's better ways to meet the needs.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is what I think you're doing.
All these four, the first four, certainty, variety, significance, connection, you're right, all of these things can be somehow simulated in active addiction, but perhaps giving and growth can't be.
And that's why you're not fulfilled. And that's why someday most people finally hit a wall where they look for some other way to meet that higher intent.
So this is, in terms of a new analytic for this existing program, is important because the 12 steps is a progressive system.
Yes,
so once you finish step 1, step 2, get
That's
on,
right. Keep growing.
and so on, so on. And
keep making progress.
Yes, and the giving, the summit of it, look at your life less selfishly, be nice to everyone, help people if you can.
Yes.
That's the optimal state. That's what you're aiming for, and that's not something you would ever consider. Like when